Hello, YouTube land. This is Brent and Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. I had someone send me a very, very strange story, and this is more in the lines of paranormal type stuff. His name is YN. That's his musician name, just a Y and an N, and he is from California. Well, they had went he and his brothers and some other people had went to a haunted location, and things began to escalate as they went to a couple locations. And I don't want to give the story away, but it ends up turning really bad, and you don't want to miss this one. Listen to this all the way through. This is basically the guy telling his story, and he's just telling the story basically all the way through. And there are a few lessons I think that you can get from this story. The reality of demonic activity in the world is one of the lessons you can get from it for sure. It's nothing to be trifled with. It's nothing to joke about, and you'll see as the story escalates. Now, I had a guy send me a story before, and I can't remember what that video was called, but it was really very similar to this story, where these two fellas went to a movie, and it was a really bad horror type movie, and when they came out of the movie theater, one of the guys had said, like, screw them demons, or, kind of deal. And he said, I dare them, kind of, he dared, the devil to mess with him, kind of thing. And it ended up turning very tragic after he had made this dare and taunted at the demonic activity. And I think really that if a person is not a protected, let's just say, we'll listen to the story first, because I think it's important not to throw out too much before we hear the story. But it's just basically a dangerous thing to take demonic activity lightly, and if you know that you've had some kind of activity like that around you, it's really time to immediately seek some help, pray. It just isn't something to blow off and to take lightly at all. And you'll see in this story that it turned very bad. And that's about all I want to say, because I don't want to give away the story. It's very interesting as this man YN tells the story. It starts off kind of seemingly a little slow at first, but he's building, the groundwork for you to understand what happened, and I promise you, it's not boring. So you just listen to it all the way through, and thank you very much. I'll put some similar stories in the cards. If you click the top right of the screen, if you watch this on YouTube, it'll give you a drop down menu. There's a little circle that will pop up on the top right if you hover the mouse or tap the screen if you're on a phone, and you tap that little circle, and it'll give you a drop down menu. And I'll have some similar type stories, and I'll find the story that I was telling you about that's very similar to this one, and you can check that one out and compare them. It's very interesting. God bless, and hope you enjoy this story from YN from California.
All right, what's going on, YouTube? I stumbled across Brenton's channel by accident one day. Just so happened to watch a lot of his stories, and I had a story of my own, that I feel he would have been interested in, as well as people in the YouTube community. You know, first off, I like to say I'm not, you know, by any means a person who would, you know, normally believe in, you know, those type of things that he speaks about, or, you know, he has stories on, and I wouldn't be if I hadn't experienced some things myself. So, you know, I emailed him and, you know, told him that I had a story for him. Didn't give him much detail or anything. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and tell my story. So it was Halloween 2009. I had just turned 18, and my cousins and I were, you know, looking for something to do. It was my cousin T, and my other cousin CJ, and T is a boy and CJ is a girl, just in case you're wondering, you know. And my brother, like I said, I had just turned 18. CJ was 19. T was 23. And my brother was 22. So, you know, we were just looking for something to do. And so what ended up happening was we went to the local corner store, I believe, to get some snacks or something while we looked for a party on our phones, you know, or, you know, whatever we could find. So as we're leaving the store, my brother is outside talking to some people, and they were, you know, telling him about a haunted house, and, you know, telling him where it was and stuff like that. And these people also had, you know, a cooler full of beer, so they gave, you know, my brother a few beers, and they gave, you know, my cousin T a few beers, and they told us, you know, follow them or whatever. So we figured, hey, can't do any harm. Like, you know, we didn't have anything else to do, so we got in our car and we followed them to the so-called haunted house, or so we thought. So so we got there. It was about 10 minutes away from the store, kind of in like this how can I explain it? It's kind of like in this, like, the best description I can give is it was sort of next to like some type of farm, and we got there and they were telling us a story. So the story goes, this is exactly what they said. They said the story goes that a guy had killed his family and went in the basement and burned the house down from the basement. And he killed his whole family, went down to the basement, and set the house on fire. And, you know, of course, the house burned down on top of him and, you know, killed him also. And they were saying that, because when we got there, it was 3 steps. Like, you could tell a house used to sit there. Like, there was no doubt about it. Like, now, it was 3 steps, and on the 3rd step, you could tell that it was a porch there. So it was like partially left there. And I guess from the house actually burning down, that it was just, you know, that part didn't, or that was the part that was left, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. And so they were saying that the story goes that when you step on the 3rd step, it's actually still hot. Like, you could actually still feel the heat from the fire. So me and my cousins and my brother were like, yeah, sure, whatever you say. So they were like, no, go ahead and see. So we stepped up on the third step, and sure enough, and mind you, this is October now. It's California, but around this time it gets, kind of cold. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are from a lot of other places that are way colder, but with us in California, anything below 70 is cold to us. So anyway, so it was pretty cold that night, and I say it was about 65, maybe 60 degrees, something like that. And as soon as you stepped on that third step, you actually really did feel heat. I don't know if it was our mind playing tricks on us or I really don't know what to call it, but I know for a fact that, it really got hot when we stepped on that third step. So by this time we're like creeped out, like, okay, that's weird, so what ended up happening was someone ended up calling the police, or I think the police ended up just patrolling back there or something like that, and told us we had to leave. So we all get in the car, and they tell us to follow them again. So we like, okay, what else could happen? So we follow them, and they tell us about this place they're taking us to now, and they say that what happened there was bikers used to take people there and hang them or something like that. Like the story is kind of like foggy to me now. It's been a while. This is when I was 18. I'm 24 now, so it's been a while. But bikers used to take people there and hang them or sacrifice them or something of that nature. So by this time, my cousin CJ and me and I forgot to mention, my cousin CJ brought one of her girlfriends with her. So not girlfriend as in like girlfriend, but like her friend. And by this time we're like, nah, we're not going to this one. Like, we're already creeped out about that. So we're like, okay, we're not going to this one. So my cousin T and my brother E gets out, and they go. Now, mind you, they've been passing, the people we met have been passing both of them beers this whole time. So they're, pretty drunk. So they go, and, my cousin CJ and me and her friend, sorry about that, someone's popping fireworks. Anyway, so me, my cousin CJ, and her friend stay in the car. Like, we've had enough. So my cousin T and my brother E, they go with them. So my cousin T comes back, and we're like, where's E? And he's like, oh, he's back there, or he's back there with them still. So we're like, okay, whatever, we guess. So we're sitting in the car, and my brother comes back with no shirt on. Like, he has his jacket still on, but he doesn't have a shirt on. And the best way I can describe his jacket is picture a Letterman, but it was open. So he had his jacket on, but it was no shirt under his jacket. So, this is just what I see from a distance. So as he comes closer, I get out the car, and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, the demon ripped my shirt. And, me and the rest of my cousins look at each other like, what? Like, okay, you've had, a little bit too much there. And he's like, no, for real, the demon ripped my shirt. So by this time, we're ready to go. Like, we're not even trying to, explore nothing else, see any more haunted houses. We were done that night, so before he gets in the car, he has a beer in hand while he's saying all this. And before we left, he threw the beer in the middle of the street and said, "Fuck that demon." And we were just like, okay, yeah, he's really drunk now. So we leave, we go home. I say bye to my cousins and all that. They go home and stuff. So the next day, my brother he has a hangover or whatever. And, I decided to ask him, like, hey, you said the demon ripped your shirt. Like, what did you mean by that? Like, was that true, or were you just drunk? And he's like, nah, the demon really ripped my shirt. Like, he's like, nah, something really ripped my shirt off. That's exactly what he said. He said, nah, something ripped my shirt off. I was like, what you said? It was a demon. He was like, man, I don't know. He said, I was climbing up the ladder because they were trying to show me where these bikers used to sacrifice people, or whatever the story was. I can't really remember it that clear, but it was something of that nature. And he said they were showing him where they used to sacrifice people at. And he said he was climbing up the ladder so they could show him where they used to sacrifice people at. And he said something grabbed him by his shirt and ripped his shirt off of him, but his jacket stayed on. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like, what the hell? Like, and normally, when people are drunk, they really don't remember things, but he remembered that, like, so, I kind of just shook it off, like, oh, okay. So, the next day, I think that was a Saturday. It was Saturday when we went to, on our little haunted house journey. Sundays, when I asked him about it, was all that stuff true that he was saying? And then Monday is when everything went downhill. So I'm going to tell you what happened. For certain reasons, I can't say names because my brother is, still fighting. Well, he's appealing his case. So let me begin. So, the next day, that month, let's backtrack. Saturday was Halloween, so we went, with those people we met at the store. Sunday is the day I asked him, was that stuff true? Okay, now here comes Monday night. So it's like 11:40 p.m. So it's pretty late, and I'm on the phone at the time, and I hear a commotion going on outside, and it's my cousin. I can tell who it is arguing. It's my cousin T and my brother E. So I can hear them, but they argue all the time. They fight all the time. So I'm thinking, like, well, they're just going to fight, and then, it's going to be over. They're going to get over it, or whatever it's going to be. And, so I really didn't pay no mind. So my other brother, my older brother, who's older than me and my brother E, he knocks on my door and he says, you better go get E. He's going to end up getting us, kicked out of these apartments, making all that noise, arguing. So I get up and I put my house slippers on, and I'm walking down the hallway to go outside. And as I'm walking down the hallway, my brother E comes in, and he's like, man, T tripping. I'm like, what do you mean he's tripping? Like, what do you mean? Like, he like, man, he out there talking stuff and talking trash, and he like, but I'm just finna go to sleep. I'm not finna worry about it. I'm just finna go to sleep. Don't worry about it, brother. I'm just finna go to sleep. So I said, okay. So, I go back in my room. This is about 11:45 a.m. So about maybe 10 minutes later, I hear some more commotion going on outside. Now, mind you, I didn't even hear the door open to where my brother went back outside. So I look out the window and I see my brother walking towards my cousin T, and the girl that the girl that they're one of the girls that they were partying with that same night was pulling my cousin T the opposite way, like as if she were trying to stop them from fighting, you know. So I look out the window and I hear my brother E say, "Who wanna die? Who wanna die?" And from the angle I'm looking out the window, his eyes were black, like there wasn't any white in his eyes. And I thought I was crazy. I thought I was seeing things like, I thought maybe it was just too dark and it just looked that way. But I'll verify that in a minute. So I go to my mom's window and I look out the window, to get a better, view of what's going on. So my brother's walking towards my cousin T with his fist balled up like, "Who wanna die? Who wanna die?" And his, he had a lot more growl to his voice. Like, it didn't sound like my brother, like, And, so after that, I said, okay, well, I gotta put something on. I gotta stop them from fighting or stop them, So I run back in my room. I put shoes on this time and I tie them, and then, I'm walking out my room down the hallway to, go outside. So as soon as I'm about to turn the doorknob, my older brother, the one who's older than, me and my brother E, is behind my brother E. My brother E is crying and saying, I didn't mean to do that, and I didn't mean to do that. And so I'm like, what happened? And then my older brother says, E's going to jail. He just stabbed T. And so I automatically hear that and bolt past both of them and run outside to the front. These are apartments, by the way. So I run outside to the front, where I last saw them, and my cousin T is holding his side, bleeding. You can see the blood bleeding, and he's like, and I'm like, what happened? So I push him on the ground and pull his sweater off of him and, press down on where, he stabbed at. And he was stabbed, I say at least 7 times. And, I take his sweater off and I push it down on him, and I make him, lay on the ground. I'm like, man, you gotta stay down. You gotta stay on the ground. You can't move. Hold on. And so while I'm doing this, the girl is, trying to talk to him and, keep him away, cause he's like, I'm dying, help me, I'm dying. And, after that, he started to kind of like fade in and out, and, by this time I'm like shaking him, like, nah, you gotta stay awake. You gotta stay with me. Stay awake. So our neighbors come out, everybody from the apartments come out. It's a big commotion. My neighbor, gives me her cell phone and tells me to call the ambulance and stuff. So I get her phone and I call the ambulance, and the lady can't understand me. I'm frantic. I can't really talk right. I've never seen nothing like that in my life. So I call and, I'm telling her the address, but she can't hear me. So my neighbor grabs the phone and she tells them, the address, and they take forever to get there, So they finally get there, and by this time, my cousin isn't even moving. His eyes, finally rolled back in his head and didn't roll back the other way, And so they strip him, they put him on the gurney, and they take him to the hospital. The police come, they arrest my brother, and put him in the car, take him to jail. So by this time, everybody's calling the rest of the family, and telling them what had happened, what hospital he was at. So we go to the hospital, and we're in the waiting room, and the surgeon comes in, or the doctor, whatever you want to call it, comes in, and, he's like, "Oh, are you guys related to, such and such?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're his family." One of my aunts asked, "Is he okay? Did he make it?" The doctor was like, "Oh, we can't give out that kind of information. Are you guys," like, I think he asked again, like, "Are you guys related?" or something like that. We're like, "Yeah, we're his family." And he said, "Okay, well, the stab wounds were too severe and we couldn't stop the bleeding, so unfortunately he didn't make it." So, everyone falls out crying and, all that stuff. And, I just can't believe it, because I thought, he was going to make it, and, everything. I mean, not everything was going to be okay, but he was just going to make it. I thought he was going to pull through, And, so now fast forward to a year later, my brother gets 26 years to life in jail. And, one day we're talking on the phone, and he tells me, he said, I was reading the police report, and Jasmine is the girl they were, out partying with that night. He said, in the police report, Jasmine says that my eyes were black. And, a light bulb kind of went off in my head, like, yeah, they were. Like, I thought I was crazy, but the fact that she saw it also, that was pretty crazy. Like, yeah. And, I told him, I said, yeah, they were. And he was like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, their eyes were black." He said, "Man, I don't even remember." He said, "I don't even remember doing any of that." Like, he said he doesn't remember it at all. So he started talking to me about it, and he was saying that day, remember, this is Monday. He said that day, him and Jasmine's older sister were hanging out in the house listening to music or whatever, and he said that he had heard a growl. He said they were sitting there watching music videos, and he said out of nowhere he heard a growl behind his ear, like a deep growl, like, and he said he looked at her and was like, "Did you hear that?" And she was like, "Yeah." And he said, "I think we need to get out of here." And it brings me back to that point where he threw that last beer can he was drinking Saturday night in the middle of the street, and he said, "Fuck that demon." Now, my brother has always been, a troubled guy. That's the best way I can describe it. He's always been in trouble. He's always, been that black sheep of the family, always questioning things that, you were taught not to really question growing up, as far as religion and things like that. So with that being said, you guys can come to your own conclusions, or, whatever. This is something I wouldn't make up. Like, I've never believed in that type of stuff, but if you can sit there and connect the dots, it makes all the sense in the world, that he provoked it. It followed him home, and mind you, they said that him and my cousin were on all type of drugs or something like this. That reason there is another reason why I don't smoke or drink at all. I've never had a drink a day in my life. I've never smoked any kind of drugs or done anything like that. And, that solidified me never touching that stuff, But, the detectives and all that stuff said that my brother had all kind of drugs, and my cousin as well had all kind of drugs and stuff in their system. I feel like it followed him. He provoked it. It followed him home, and it waited for him to be in that weak mind state that most people are in when they're drunk or high or, whatever you want to call it. And, had its way with him, and, in the police report, it actually, says that the girl Jasmine said that his eyes were black, and that he had jumped on the freeway and ran back and forth across the freeway. Like, we lived in these apartments that was right next to the freeway, like literally like right across the street from the freeway. Like, it was a gate. It was the apartments, the street, a gate, and literally the freeway. And she also said in the police report that he had jumped the gate and ran across the freeway screaming like a madman, like, and I've never seen my brother like that when he was drunk or high. If anything, he'd be, he'd tell you he loved you a million times, but I had never seen him, act that way, like, ever. Like, so. And like I said, when I looked out that window and I seen him walking towards my cousin T and saying, who wanna die? Like, that didn't sound like my brother. And then that's when his eyes were black. There was no white in his eyes. His eyes were black, And so when we was on the phone, I was telling them all that. And I said, I think you provoked it that night. And it caught you when you were weak minded and had its way with you, And, he ended up getting saved in prison, and the sad thing about it is, anything paranormal is not going to hold up in court, so it's pretty difficult, but I tell people all the time, like, that wasn't my brother that night. I don't know who that was, but that was not my brother, I've known my brother all my life, like, that wasn't my brother, so it's difficult every day thinking about the circumstances and stuff, like, but that, if anything, that brought me closer to God more than I've ever been, like, if you believe in one side, you have to believe in the other. Believe me, like, so, I just felt, the need to tell my story to someone. This isn't something I would make up or, play games with or just to entertain people. Like, this is a real story, So right now what's going on is my brother is fighting his case. He's trying to get an appeal. Well, he's trying to get his appeal to go through and stuff like that. So, fingers crossed with that. But, it's just crazy how, one day or one night or something you say or, a place you go can just change your life forever, so with that being said, I would just like to say that, be cautious of the things you speak on, be cautious of the things you say, just be cautious in general, period, but, yeah, my name is YN. That's my story. If you guys have any questions, I'll give my link to Brenton, and feel free to hit me up and ask me anything, I'm a real cool person and I don't mind answering any questions or any disputes anyone may have with my story or anything, So, yeah, God bless.